But there's a new family in town. And this new family just so happens to be from, well, because this is set in the West.
Yeah.
They happen to be from the East. But not just any East. Not like Rochester East, where you're from.
Yeah.
The Far East. A Chinese family moves into town.
They were working on the railroads.
Yeah, and that's what they say.
Yeah.
And anytime that this Chinese family or anybody from the family comes on to screen, they play a little song. And it says in the caption, like, you know, majestic flute music playing.
Yeah.
It's incredibly racist in my opinion. Like,
it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We were sitting on the couch together watching this scene, and I just looked over at you, and I was like, "Oh!" And you were like, "Oh my god!"
But you know, Jack's into it.
Jack
he sees this, as the movie portrays, Oriental beauty.
Yes,
and he's like, "She's exotic. I want it."
Yep. He calls her exotic at one point.
Yeah, he calls her a delicate flower. All the like tropes that you can think of like just the way Asian people are depicted in movies before Crazy Rich Asians.
Yep.
It's in this movie.
It's all in this movie.
We got it. We got it all, baby.
Falls in love with her.
Welcome to Doc West's hottest nightclub, Orientalism. It has everything. It has railroads. It has flute music. It has calling a woman an exotic flower. Is that messed up? Did I take somebody else's bit?
No, well, we'll give the credit to Bill Hader.
Okay,
Stefan.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Saturday Night Live, that's probably one of the greatest bits of all time.
Yeah, that's the best bit of all time. I love it. Yeah, so Jack's in love with this
Shu. They never mention her name.
They never say her name, but in the IMDb, they call her Shu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't say her name. Well, I do know why, because she's not really treated as a person in this movie. No.
She's an exotic flower.
An exotic flower.
As described.
Yes.
And then it cuts back to town.
Yeah.
And the Baker boys are up to the old Baker boy
Just
stuff.
Being Baker boys, leaning up against posts, drinking beers. Yeah.
And Bert turns to Ernie. Bert turns to Jack and is like, "Look, I know you're jealous of me and Millie, and I just gotta say, it's not cool." Meanwhile, Chu is walking by.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack sees her.
Yeah.
And his eyes light up.
Hard eyes all day.
And he's like, "Well, she's just a beautiful, delicate, exotic, Oriental woman. Of course I love her." And Bert is like, "Are we talking about the same person?" And that's that scene.
Jack's in love. Jack is over Millie.
Yeah.
Millie, he doesn't give a shit about Millie because he never really cared about Millie.
He feels nilly for Millie.
He feels nilly for Millie. Now it's all about that shoe.
It's all about that shoe. About that shoe. Jack is in town. Jack, the baker boy, and he is loading some seeds, some grain from his cart.
Some sort of sacks of things.
Yeah,
there's
just
so many sacks of things.
You know, it's the West, baby.
Everything's in sacks.
Sack everywhere. You want a sack of flour? You want a sack of birds?
Sack of potatoes from Sacramento.
That is a deep cut.
Yeah, I don't know how that came through my brain. It hurt.
But as he's loading the sack, he sees his love, Chu.
Yeah.
And she is leaving the store to grab food for her family because she's very family oriented.
It's the first time she speaks.
And there's two guys who look so dusty and dirty,
and they're drunk
and grimy. It's like how Dalton looks at the end of a shift at Olivewood. Somehow his beard hair is longer. It's like flour,
grizzled.
Yeah, just crusty.
crusty.
And these guys come up to her and they're like, "Looks like you're coming with us. Like, you know what? Well, I've never seen a Native American that looked like this before."
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, "She's not Native. She's a And
he never finishes the sentence.
Yeah, well, because everybody knows what he's going to... It sounds like
I kind of wanted to know what he was going to say.
He's just going to say Chinaman. That's what he was going to say.
Well, there's so many options for racism in that moment. I was wondering which one he was going to go with.
Well, and they do use other slurs and stuff at other points in the movie when they're talking about Native Americans.
Yeah.
So I figured maybe that they would just say Chinaman, but she goes, a foreigner? And like interrupts him.
Which is kind of sweet.
Yeah. But it's fucked up because these guys are going to do something bad.
These guys are going to do something bad. She was sweet.
Yeah.
Jack, he walks up. He's like, is there a problem? And the two drunk dudes are just like, don't get involved. We're handling this.
There's nothing going on here. You don't need to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack intervenes. And he's like, back the fuck up. This is my hot Asian. Okay? Get out of here. She's mine.
He grabs both of their heads and he clangs them together and then rips them apart.
Yeah, it looks like he's ripping out clavicles.
It's crazy.
I mean, we don't see blood. We don't see gore.
No, but
the way
there's
he
a sound.
yanks,
There's a yank and a sound where it goes pop. It's like,
cool.
ugh, and they both drop to the ground. He ties him up, and he rescues his girlfriend.
Yeah, which I'm very excited to talk more about that relationship as it develops.
Yeah. Yes.
It cuts back to Jack and his love.
So much Jack in this movie.
It's all about Jack.
Yeah.
Jack is unloading more sacks.
Just so many sacks
into the storehouse, and Shu comes up with her father.
Yeah,
and her father enters the store. She points to him, and she's like, "That's the guy.
Yeah,
that's him.
It's Chris Farley. He's right there.
And he doesn't have any lips, but I like it." And Shu's father says, "I'd like to humbly invite you to be a guest at my humble house for a humble dinner." And I quoted that exactly. He does say humble 4 times in that speech, which it's another trope, you know, like, I must be very respectful and Asian. But yeah, he's going to be going over to their house for dinner. They have like these red lanterns and all these like Chinese decorations and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I get it. They're trying to like bring their culture, you know, and make their home in this new land and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Jack looks up and he goes, "That's a nice train you got up there."
It's a dragon.
It's not a train.
It's a dragon.
The dad's like, "That's a dragon." Have you never seen a dragon before?
Jack's like, "Nope."
I know. And you know what? I'm actually on his side for that because I personally have never seen like a dragon in real life before either, but I have seen a train.
Yeah, and he lives in the West in the 1800s.
Trains are long and segmented and they breathe fire.
You know what?
And smoke. And I can ride them. And they're mythical creatures. And I think one was in Harry Potter.
I think, I'm on Jack's side too. He looked at it. He has no cultural reference for what that thing is. And he's like, "Looks like a train. Must be a train." It's like, good for Jack.
And like, you know, he's here and he's at, you know, this dinner and they have like the mom or the grandma or something. And she's like cooking dishes and stuff. And usually like at like traditional Chinese meals, there'll be a lot of like small dishes that are very shareable and everybody has their own kind of share plates.
Yeah.
But the mom sets down this bowl of noodles and it's like, okay, like it's time for everybody to eat. And Jack grabs the noodles and he grabs the chopsticks with both hands and starts shoveling them in his mouth.
He loves it.
Yeah, he likes it, which is, it's a compliment, but also everybody is like
just watching in horror.
What is he doing? Like and he's like, "Oh shit, were we supposed to share that? Was that for everyone?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they all like kind of laugh at him.
Yeah, they take it in stride because they decide it's funny.
Yeah,
and you know, it's a compliment to the chef. It's also pretty funny. I kind of like this scene.
He's also like, I could watch a whole movie
just Jack and his Jack very slowly learning the culture of China.
Yeah, until they go to China and he rides a dragon.
Finally gets to ride a dragon.
And she's like, "This is a train." He's like, "But it looks exactly like that one you had in your house." He just doesn't know the difference between a train and a dragon.
But Jack and his family.
So like that little one that was slithering around in the lawn, that wasn't a train.
Tiny little garden train?
It was a rattle train.
You know, the doc shot the tail off a train earlier.
It was a boa constrictor train. That's as far as that one's gonna go.
Jack hits it off with the family, and it's nice. They're all getting along.
He's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I ate all that food. I got some extra tates in the car. I got some potatoes." Jack, Baker, and Shu.
Yeah, it's a lot of them in this movie. It's incredible.
Yeah, and he's teaching her English. They're looking at her hand, and she goes, "Hat." And he goes,
"Hat?"
And he goes, "No, hand." And then he holds her hand, and he goes,
"Hat."
He goes, "Little hand." And then she holds his hand, and she goes, "Big hat."
It's so stupid.
It is. It's really dumb.
She also said a lot of words earlier in the movie. She probably knows hat and hand.
Yeah, or at least how to make the different noises between t and nd.
Yeah, you would think. They act like she's like a child, and that has to be like, hat, hand. It's so dumb.
Caveman.
I know. Does Jack know English that well?
No.
Should he be teaching English?
He thought a dragon was a train 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, maybe don't be teaching English, sir.